And from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, New York, on the wonderfully clear, somewhat cool Saturday evening here in New York City, I'm Glenn Crooks along with Matty Lawrence. Matty, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Glenn.
Wonderful night for some football. I mean, as a former player, these are the sorts of evenings, a nice chill in the air, no wind, so to speak, and clear skies, and the sun's not going to get in your eyes, and just seems like a nice night.
Yeah, it's pretty perfect. For me, I'd like a little bit of a light rain as well. That would keep me...
Really?
Yeah, just so that the surface is a bit more zippy. I know it's been watered a little bit, but not a great deal. So, yeah, a little bit of rain and would be absolutely perfect. But you're right, clear skies.
There's a look at that surface there. See, we could see the we're behind home plate. This is how we watch the game. So you see that far corner over there, that far right corner. So if I ever seem like I'm pausing a little bit during the commentary just to get things clear, you can understand why.
It is 150 yards away to that corner flag. Right. So, yeah, it's tough to see sometimes, but that's why you've got your trusty bird-watching binoculars.
Got this. We've got the monitor here just in case we want to call off the monitor like we did during the pandemic. And, well, here we go. Here we go. It's New York City playing host to DC United. Both teams come in 1-1-1. And the one thing, Matty, that New York City has to be beware of, just in the event that DC United gets the kickoff, is if they run the onsides play. This was their kickoff last week in their 1-1 draw against Orlando City, the opening kickoff. That's DC United on the left. The goalkeeper, Tyler Miller, is up holding hands with the central defenders there. And they played it back to him, and he just banged it into the other end. So, well, that's one way to start a match.
Yeah, it is. Who knows whether they'll try it again today, but they may well do. Get the ball as far away from your own goal. It's certainly harder to concede when the ball's at the other end of the field. But, yeah, it's not particularly pretty to watch, that's for sure.
All right, so that was a 1-1 draw. That was at Audi Field, home match for DC United. On the road, especially against New York City FC, and especially here at Yankee Stadium, it hasn't gone well for DC United. New York City's coming off the Inter Miami victory in their home opener last week, 1-0. New York City remains unbeaten at home, 5-0-2 in their home openers here at Yankee Stadium. DC United has never won here at Yankee Stadium, also with just 2 points, 2 draws, and having lost 5 times. Their only win on the road in this series was at Red Bull Arena last year, a 2-1 victory. And let's look, first of all, for New York City at the game last week and the goal that was scored. In particular, we're going to replay this for the New York City FC Network and Apple TV Plus. And again, our game is available on the drop-down on Apple TV today, along with the network and TuneIn and the NYCFC app. But if I can find it here, this was the only goal of the game, and it wasn't scored by New York City FC, even though they won. The free kick for New York City, and it's a goal! Taken from the left. It's an own goal. Chanot is in the territory. Santi Rodriguez bent it in. Drake Colliner, all he could do is look forward, encourage his teammates to try to get one back.
Yeah, the first goal Inter Miami have conceded in 2023 was scored by Inter Miami. It's Chanot's pressure on McVeigh. McVeigh has to go for it. But look, it's a terrible clearance. Such a wild slash at it. I always say, as a defender, I know, and you do it many times, you're facing your own goal, get a broad surface on the ball, you don't swing at it, broad surface and just punch through the middle of the ball.
So Chris McVeigh, the left central defender, with the whole goal. All right, first goal scored by Miami, or conceded by Miami, scored by Miami. I love that. It was a great line, Matty. I give you credit for that. I know you're off Twitter right now, but I did tweet that out so that everybody had a chance to.
I very much appreciate that
to hear it. So that was the New York City win. So they've only scored one of their own goals out of 3 matches. Gabby Panetta in the 1-1 draw with Chicago. But I was looking at this, Matty. Nick Cushing last week against Phil Neville, friend of his. Nick coached his son in the academy. So 2 British coaches. And here we go again, Nick Cushing versus Wayne Rooney. Now, this is interesting because Cushing is an Evertonian. grew up going to Goodison Park with his father, and he's a massive, and you could see fits of depression when we're on the road and Everton, and then he gets it back in time for the game. But Wayne Rooney, kind of an idol of Nick Cushing's, just because of that background, and plus of what Rooney accomplished both on the international level and club level.
Yeah, look, Rooney wasn't an Evertonian for very long, was he? He is an Evertonian, but wasn't at Everton for that long. Between 16 and 18, then his £25 million move to Man United. But you're right, everybody at Everton, I'm sure Nick Cushing was one of them, knew that Wayne Rooney was going to be a star from about the age of 11 or 12, and he was a star very, very quickly. At 16, he absolutely came onto the scene.
Nick was in the building for the 16-year-old goal.
When he scored past Seaman, was it that goal? And the underside of the crossbar. Yeah. Look, Wayne Rooney's a fantastic player, or was a fantastic player. He is making his way as a coach, I think, similar to Nick Cushing. Look, Nick Cushing has been a coach for a long time, but this is his first head coaching job in the men's game, and certainly here in MLS. And Wayne Rooney is very similar as well. He went back home. He was player manager for Derby County for a little bit, which is why he left DC United as a player a few years ago, and he did a decent job at Derby. And then the wheels came off a little bit at Derby because of administration, because of finances, and he finds himself back here. So I think he's done a decent job so far, Wayne Rooney, but it's very early on in his managerial career. And look, I think we all, certainly as an Englishman, I like everything that Wayne Rooney did on the field as a player, even though he's a Man United player. And I am a Liverpool fan, but he was absolutely phenomenal for England. I think 120 caps for England as well. So it's nice for me as an English guy to be able to see Wayne Rooney down there. He may not be an idol of mine, but certainly he's somebody I've looked up to as a player. He was phenomenal throughout his career.
And of course, he played in the league, and he has scored a couple of goals against New York City FC. But here at Yankee Stadium, there's a certain mystique. Nick Cushing talked about it last year a little bit, and then I brought it up to him again this week leading into this DC United match, coming off the home opening win against Inter Miami.
It must do, but then I look at the opposition, and at times I don't feel like we're being pressed the way that we seem to be really effective there. Maybe that's because we're good in build-up, but I think sometimes the game, that side of the game is won before the game starts, because, you see the opposition. We have a TV in our office in Yankee Stadium, and every time we see the opposition coach or the goalkeeping coach or the sporting director pacing out the pitch and pacing out the box, and so you can tell it's in their head. People make such a big thing of it. We've been playing there now for so many seasons, you think they'd be used to it.
How many times have we been sitting here before the game where we look down and the opponents come out, and invariably the assistants are stepping off the 18. How wide is it? Is it regulation? The penalty box being regulation has always been a topic of discussion. And I spoke to Bruce Murray this morning, former U.S. men's national team player, friends with Peter Vermees. He's on the DC United radio broadcast along with Dave Johnson. And he said he talked to Vermees either last week or a couple of weeks ago, and he said Vermees told him it is 70 yards. But remember, Peter didn't believe it was 70 yards, and I called it a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I thought it was interesting that Nick brought it up, that they look at the coaches before each game from the opposition side. Yeah,
look, I certainly think last week from Inter Miami's point of view, Phil Neville has talked far too much about the size of the pitch and playing in a baseball stadium. And, as a head coach, when you start talking about that, your players are listening to you a little bit as well. So I think Nick Cushing's, the best point that Nick made was the fact that Yankee Stadium has been home for so long now. It's not, there's no intrigue here. We've known how big the pitch is. We've known that it's Yankee Stadium for a long time now. So it's nothing new, and it certainly shouldn't worry players or head coaches or coaching staff alike.
There it is,
exactly.
There's an odd configuration. You could see where the infield is. Interesting. I think a year ago, it seemed like that portion of the field was at least it was greener.
Yes.
I haven't been on there stepping on it. It didn't appear that players were slipping last week in that vicinity. I don't know if you saw anything different as far as how the ball bounced. They do all kinds of testing before the game, which we also can see. You won't see it as someone listening to the radio, obviously, or watching the game on TV before the game. They come out and they do all kinds of tests to make sure it's firm the right way. But it just doesn't have the same glowing look as it did last year before the Yankees started playing.
Absolutely. Look, aesthetically wise, it doesn't look very good, but when you get a bit closer, I think that it's pretty evident that it's well bedded down, and we know why that is. It's because the Yankees their season hasn't started, so it's had a long time to bed in. And although the colour doesn't look great, that's not the point. I think it plays well.
That doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't matter at all. Yes, if you're watching the game on TV, it doesn't look great. That's for certain. But it does. The bounce looks true. It's normally the fullbacks, isn't it, or the right winger or the left back who has to deal with that. And I have never seen. It's normally the standing foot that goes, and I haven't seen anybody slip over. I know we've only had the one game here, but it certainly seemed to play pretty true last week against Inter Miami.
Yeah, we'll leave the stadium in the I mean, it's something that gets talked about constantly. I'm listening to the radio this week on Sirius XMFC 24/7 Soccer, and it comes up there. And I think some of this is alleviated by the fact that there will be a soccer-specific stadium for New York City. It's down the road. It won't be till the beginning of the 2027 season at the earliest. That's according to the president of the club, Brad Sims, as far as how it's progressing at this point. That's the best prediction they could come up with. So knowing you have that down the road makes this a little easier. But I've told you this. I've grown fond of this place, and I know that the team has. I mean, look at their record. I mean, I should have it here really close to me. So look, 64 wins, 17 losses, 26 draws all time. But 7 of those 17 losses came in the very first year of existence. New York City, in essence, doesn't lose here.
No, and look, that's what you're supposed to do. Any team anywhere around the world is supposed to, they say it's Fortress Goodison Park or Fortress Anfield, Fortress Yankee Stadium. You're used to it. Especially here, you're used to the configurations as a player. Certainly when I was a player, you do take your bearings from the stand. And certainly I liked playing at a place like Upton Park or Loftus Road where the stands were very, very close to the pitch and you can get your bearings. Here you certainly can't. But New York players have got used to it. And look, we're perpetuating this myth, aren't we? We're talking about it. We're saying we shouldn't talk about it, but we are talking about it. But you're absolutely spot on. There is an end in sight. And I've always said that's all that's important for me, that there is that end in sight. And when David Lee and when Brad Sims have talked about it, there seems to be almost that little twinkle in their eye. They know it's coming. It's been very, very hard to get land. I understand it within Manhattan or wherever it may be in New York City. Within the 5 boroughs, it's very, very difficult. I understand it takes a lot of finances, probably a few brown paper bags as well. And they've now got it. And I know it's going to be, the area's got to be cleaned up first, hasn't it, before ground can even be broken per se.
First shovel
it's
into the ground, 12 to 18 months, according to Brad Sims. This is NYCFC pregame live. The game tonight is New York City at home here at Yankee Stadium to DC United. And something that Matt and I have discussed both off mic, on mic, during commentary has been central defense for New York City FC. Now, a lot of chances have not been conceded through these first 3 matches, but we were curious as to why Maxime Chenot was playing left central defense and Thiago Martins right central defense when it was our position that Maxime Chenot is far less comfortable on the left than he is on the right, and that has impacted clearances at times, things like that. So I addressed that with the head coach today. I'm sure you're happy about that, Matt, because we've been talking about it. Here's what Nick Cushing said earlier this week.
Just literally flipped it, and the balance and the cohesion that we've seen defensively and offensively, the best partnership has been Maxime on the left and Thiago on the right, and that's also because the relationship between right back and right centre half, left back and left centre half is basically we've just flipped it, and we seem to be getting some good cohesion. And I've been really pleased with the way that we've defended. Disappointed in the set play goals, disappointed in the counter attack where Tavon pulls up, but I don't believe we can see the goal there if Tavon doesn't do the hamstring. And to give away 2 goal chances in the game, 2 goal chances in the game against Chicago, one of them being the set play goal. I've been really pleased with the way we've defended the box.
So you're just really making one move, Chanot for Collins, in essence. So you're not taking Martins away from Gray and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's how many changes do you want to make,
Yeah.
and like you say, is like the knock-on effect is you move one, you move two, you end up as a domino effect when really we just rely on Maxim's experience and his understanding of defending. And of course, when you're a dominant right footer, at times it's complex to play on the left. But I thought he's done a really good job there.
And you see Tavon Gray back in the starting 11 for Micha Ilinic, who will be absent next week on international duty with Serbia. But, Matt, what do you think of how Nick described his reasoning behind it?
Yeah, look, Nick's a head coach, and that's the conclusion he's come to. I just think if I'm an opposition team, I am funneling the ball towards Chanot and pressing and forcing Chanot onto his left foot. I think he's a lot more uncomfortable on his left than Thiago Martins would be. Nick has his viewpoint, and it's valid. They're playing well at the moment, but I do think that Chanot looks more uncomfortable than I would imagine Thiago Martins if he was on the left. I think he's a little more cultured, Thiago Martins, and I think he'd be able to grow more accustomed to playing left centre half. But of course, Nick's the head coach. He's the one who's made that decision. And look, I imagine at some point, left-footed centre half will be coming in as well.
We think maybe at the back, and then also at striker, Tylus Magno, no goals and only 3 shots over his first 3 games. That's another thing that we've discussed, and it's been discussed among other pundits and the supporters. Is Magno a striker? Many think not, that he should be out on the wing, but you've got to work with what you have. And here's another question I put to Nick. Christian Benteke, if there was ever like a pure number 9, it's Benteke who will start up top for DC United. So I put it to Nick Cushing about having maybe a number 9 like Benteke. And this is not to diminish Tylus Magno as a number 9 at all, really. But I want to ask you, when you see Benteke play the number 9, big, strong, hold-up play, great in the air, based on how you eventually want to see this, is that the kind of number 9 you'd like to have in the program out of a 4-3-3, let's say?
I think ultimately, there's so many different types of number 9s, and we've seen that here with Tati, with Eber. Now Tales has gone in there. We've actually got Gabe Siegel that is working incredibly well at the moment and is really pushing to get in the team. And I've said before, we're gonna improve our squad, and we're gonna consistently and continue to add players. I think for me, is a goal scorer. We want somebody that's going to add goals, and we know it's early for Tales. He hasn't scored, but we're also not panicking about this. I went through a 2021 season where we won the MLS Cup and Tati got the Golden Boot, and I'm sure he had, 9 games where he didn't score, period. So, this league is so streaky that Tales is working incredibly hard, and for me, that first goal is right around the corner.
So, Magno back in the lineup tonight. During the course of the week, there was just a twinge or a tweak of something musculature, but it was never considered serious, and he is in the 11. Maybe we'll see Gabe Segal. Maybe we'll see Santi Rodriguez up top with Keaton Parks moving into the number 10, like we did at the end of the last game, too. I don't think Nick Cushing would be totally against maybe making that maneuver either.
Yeah, I think whether it be Thiago or Santi Rodriguez, I think it offers you something different in that number Thiago, 9 position. Tylus Magno isn't a number 9. We can talk about it as much as we want. He's not a number 9. He doesn't like playing there. You can see it. He doesn't understand how to play centre forward. He can't really play with his back to goal. And he's one of the best left wingers in the league. So it is, square peg in a round hole. But that's what you have to do until that centre forward comes in. You talk about Benteke, and obviously you would like a centre forward like that. But really, you'd like a Christian Benteke 5 years ago. He hasn't produced a great deal since then. It was way back, really, when he was playing for Aston Villa in 2015, 2016. I think he had 3 seasons of getting into double figures with Aston Villa. He was a failure at Liverpool. He failed at Palace. And we'll see what he does here. Look, he's only 32. I think he's 33 at some point during this season. He is good. He is a Belgian, or was a Belgian international. I don't think you'll see him again playing for Belgium.
But
he's dangerous. He's dangerous.
So
he can hold the ball up. He can hold the ball up.
He
knows how to.
Yeah.
He's a number 9. He's grown up being a centre forward. He plays that position very well. How much drive and desire there is remains to be seen. He doesn't need to be playing, that's for certain. He was earning £150,000 a week at Liverpool, about £125,000 a week at Crystal Palace. So he's doing just okay, financially. This is now all about his own heart and desire and his will to win, and we'll see today. Because he should dominate. He really should. He is that good.
Well, having their hands full at the back of Maxime Chenot and Thiago Martins in particular against Benteke. So in addition to Nick Cushing this week, I had to sit down with James Sands. I invite you to go to my podcast On Frame. I've tweeted it out at Glenn Crooks, but you could also go on Apple Podcasts and look up On Frame to hear that. It's 25 minutes with James, and I'll be playing more clips throughout the week, and maybe we'll put one or two on in our next NYCFC pregame live. So that's about it for now. I wanted to play one more thing, Matty, and you know how teammates, when there's a penalty or a free kick, sometimes they fight over it, right? I mean, literally. I mean, sometimes there's a lot of anger. Well, how about Dennis Bouanga and Kellen Acosta at LAFC?
I think he did a very good job coming out. There's the Rochambeau. Scissors, paper, shoot.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors to decide who's taking the free kick. How about it, Matty?
Yeah, I've seen that before for penalties, and normally that's when. Yeah, well, only when it's penalties you're already 4-0 up. I don't think you want to be making a mockery of it when it's 1-1. That's for certain.
I want to see it in a tense moment, man. I want to see it in a tense moment. All right. It's New York City FC playing against DC United. We have the live commentary with our pregame show with head coach Nick Cushing. The full interview with Nick coming up at 7:15 Eastern. Kickoff is at 7:39 here at Yankee Stadium. Please join us. Thanks for being here with us as well here on NYCFC Pregame Live. I'm Glenn Crooks for Matty Lawrence. Enjoy the game, everybody.